Memphis is number one. I mean, obviously losing PJ Haggerty is a crushing blow to the Memphis Tigers and Penny Hardaway right now. They're trying to rebound from that. They got Aaron Bradshaw tonight, but man, the Aaron Bradshaw that I thought was going to show up in college hasn't shown up yet. He's talented. We know that, but the production hasn't been there, and I'm not sure. And stop number 3, it's gonna be there. It's gonna equate to production. But I think Memphis, to me, is the biggest loser. Do you disagree on that one, Rob, or no?
No, I mean, you lose PJ Haggerty and you don't really add anything to replace him. At least some of the other programs that lost big name players in the portal have found a way to be able to replace them, at least to some degree, right? But Memphis, I think their biggest ad right now is Sincere Parker, which he's fine. He was good for McNeese State last year, but when you are the Memphis Tigers and the biggest thing that you have coming off of the season like you had is Sincere Parker while losing a second team All-American, it's just that's a tough pill to swallow if you are a Memphis basketball fan. And I don't know. I mean, look, we don't have to go too deep into this. We did this on Monday, but I don't know how much you can fault PJ Haggerty for to be able to go out and chase that bag. Like if he can go out and if you're seeing guys like Rodney Rice make over $3 million and a second team All-American like PJ Haggerty is available, go out and do it. I talked with one coach who told me that they were interested in bringing in PJ Haggerty, but they weren't going to be able to sell to take out a second mortgage on the arena, so that they weren't going to be able to afford him coming in. So look, chase that bag. We get it, PJ. Do they have a transfer coming in right now? They lost KJ Lewis. They lost Henry Visar. Does Arizona? Yeah, I don't think they have a commit coming in yet, right?
They got they have young kids.
Yeah.
They have Koa Pete, who's awesome. Really, really good freshman. The kid Braden Burries, who's really talented. And, Krivas is back, but they obviously lose Visar to North Carolina and KJ Lewis to Georgetown. To me, the portal has not treated Arizona well. Again, they got some good freshmen coming in, but they are freshmen, and we don't know also whether Carter Bryant will come back. He's going through the draft process, and that is pivotal, absolutely pivotal for Arizona to get Carter Bryant back. And I think it's probably a roll of the dice right now whether or not he comes back, because I know some NBA teams that I've talked to that love his potential.
He should not be. He's one of the. There's a lot of guys that in this specific year where I would advocate for them to come back to school. He is not one of the guys where you should be advocating for him to come back to school. There's dudes that could be NBA players, and there's guys that you look at and you say are pros. And Carter Bryant is one of those guys you look at and you say is a pro. My top 10 list, I actually had, one of the storylines that we heard in the offseason was that the Big East was going to be one of the big winners of this portal era, right? Because of the NIL era, because of the money that they could spend and the higher percentage they could spend. But that's not factoring the fact that they actually have to have the money. So I had 3 Big East teams on my list of some of the biggest losers in the portal. I think the Villanova one is kind of self-explanatory, right? You bring in Kevin Willard and he couldn't get any of the big names that were still available for Maryland to follow him. Rodney Rice is at USC. Jacoby Gillespie is at Tennessee. Both of them are making reportedly $3 million and upwards. I had Alabama on there. Just if they get Coward coming in, then I think it changes that calculus a little bit. But you lose Mark Sears to graduation. I don't know if LeBaron Filan and Aiden Holloway are necessarily the guys to replace them. They lost Darian Reed. They lost Jaron Stevenson. They lost Diabate. 3 of those guys are going to go to high major power programs that Alabama will be competing with at some point this year. So I think that Alabama's on that list. The back end of my list, North Carolina, Kansas, Baylor, Georgetown, and Marquette. I don't know how you feel about any of those. Just real quick, the Baylor one, they lost everybody in the portal and they've had to completely rebuild. And when you are an established coach like Scott Drew and you lose everyone like that, we know how difficult it is to rebuild from scratch for new coaches, right? When you have to do it as a returning coach, I just think that's a really, really nightmarish situation to be in, especially when the star that you were supposed to have, you had signed to a contract that was at the end of the day unenforceable. So I don't think it's all Scott Drew's fault. I don't think it's the Baylor staff's fault, but I think that they are just in a really bad spot. Georgetown lost. They lost Epps. They lost Fielder. They had Duncan Powell.
Yeah,
and then
I don't agree with that one. I'm going to push back.
Tell me why.
I'm going to push back on that one. That's the only one of your top 10 that I looked at and I'm like, huh? They got KJ Lewis, who I think is awesome. They kept Malik Mack. And Langston Love, I know he's oft injured, but when he's healthy, he's a good piece. I don't think losing Jaden Epps was the end of the world. The key is obviously what happens with Thomas Sorber, whether he stays in for the NBA draft. I think he'll stay in. But again, I thought the KJ Lewis pickup was huge for George. I think he'll be an all-league guy. So I don't agree with the Georgetown one.
I guess that's what it is. Like I don't losing Duncan Powell is another guy where I thought you lost a lot of the impact guys, right? And I think KJ Lewis is a good piece. I think Langston Love is a good piece. I don't think Malik Mack is quite good enough to be the lead guard for a Big East team that is going to compete at the level that our expectation is for Georgetown with Ed Cooley as the coach, right? Not having Sorber is a big one. You lose Isaiah Abraham, who I think is a good long-term piece.
If you throw Sorber into that lineup right now, Rob, and again, I think it's probably less than 50% chance he returns. But let's play and this is really hard right now. Think about what you do if you're Georgetown right now. You're kind of held hostage, not because Thomas Sorber is doing it on purpose, but you've got all this money tied up. You're not going to tell Thomas Sorber, hey, you know what? Go. Like, we're going to find somebody else. You have to wait for him to make his decision. But you've probably got $2.5 million right now locked up in Thomas Sorber, because if he returns, you have to have that money to be able to pay him. And then by the time he decides, I'm not coming back, which is probably more likely, there's not a lot of guys left, probably nobody left that you're going to be able to get, certainly at that level. So you're kind of screwed, aren't you?
Why. Yeah, that's part of why I have them as a loser. Like they're just in an impossible spot with Thomas Sorber, and they're not the only one that's kind of dealing with that scenario, right? I think that a little bit Arizona's a team that's dealing with that. Obviously, UConn is a team that's dealing with that a little bit. Teams that have to make those decisions, but I think that you're losing a potential All-American if he was back in Thomas Sorber, and you're replacing with a bunch of role guys, and you lost some of the continuity. And I don't know. I think that's part of the problem that you're looking at right now with Georgetown, is they didn't have that money available to go out and get their stud, because their stud was already on the roster. They just don't know if he's going to come back to school. Marquette, I had on there. Like, I didn't know what to do with Marquette. I respect the fact that Shaka's going all in on building from within. I just don't know if that's necessarily the best idea.